I'm sure the cultural performance incited your hearts and delighted your eyes, sharing the rich and diverse heritage of Sri Lanka. We would like to thank all our performers. May I now take the honor of inviting Dr. Rajitha Senaratne, Honorable Minister of Nutrition, Indigenous Medicine and Health, to take his seat at the head table. Let me also invite the country representatives of the Association of SAARC Critical Care Societies to take their respective seats at the head table. Professor Atul Kulkarni, representing India, Dr. Rohan Disanayake from Sri Lanka, Dr. Madiha Hashmi from Pakistan, Dr. Rajesh Joshi from Nepal, Professor Omar Farooq from Bangladesh, Dr. Rizana Ghafoor from Maldives, and Dr. Champel Shering from Bhutan. In welcoming all of you, I would like to invite Professor Atul P. Kulkarni, who is the President of the Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine, the Chancellor of the Indian College of Critical Care Medicine, the President of the Association of SAARC Critical Care Societies, and the Professor and the Head of the Critical Care Medicine Division, Department of Anesthesiology, Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai. Sir, the audience awaits.
Thank you very much. Chief Guest, Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Rajitha Senaratne, Guest of Honor, Honorable Sangala Ratnanaike, Minister of Law and Order and Southern Development, representing the Honorable Prime Minister's Office, all the faculty, the President and the members of Sri Lankan Society of Critical Care Medicine, and Rohan, who has been very, very active in arranging all things. Representatives from SAARC countries, my colleagues, Ministry of Health officials, and all the invitees, distinguished guests, and the delegates. It gives me great pleasure to see this conference being organized in Sri Lanka. This is something we need to do. We have been working with Western data for far too long. So it's time to generate our own data for research, and this is a welcome step towards that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Professor Chula Goonasekera is no stranger to critical care and emergency medicine in Sri Lanka and is in fact considered the father of modern critical care in Sri Lanka. He was the professor of anesthesiology at the University of Peradeniya from 2002 right through 2013, and a founder member and twice the president of the Sri Lanka Society of Critical Care and Emergency Medicine. His passion and interest in developing critical care became apparent with his commitment to alert the public and medical community to the needs of critical care medicine as a specialty in the late 90s. And his promotion of the critical care approach through relentless bedside education of doctors and nurses, whilst introducing essential technological advancements such as continuous renal replacement therapy. It was his service that was pivotal in the initiation of the first ever renal transplant program for children in Sri Lanka in 2004 at Peradeniya. His enthusiasm to promote critical care as a specialty in Sri Lanka led to the formulation of the first Board of Critical Care and Emergency Medicine in 2008 and the installation of a competence-based curriculum to form a diploma of critical care medicine in 2009. To date, more than 100 doctors have qualified via this DCCM pathway in this country, and they form the strength behind the current Sri Lanka Society of Critical Care and Emergency Medicine. Professor Goonasekera is currently a consultant pediatric anaesthetist with an academic interest in pediatric critical care at the King's College Hospital in London and still maintains a keen interest in Sri Lanka's critical care and emergency medicine developments. It's over to you, sir.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I focus my talk to critical care medicine in Sri Lanka because that's closest to my heart and also is today very relevant. The concept of critical care as a specialty across the world evolved from the concept of concentrating bad patients in one place of the hospital to share human resource, expertise, and the facilities. And that was the beginning and the strength of evolution of critical care. It started in 1854, probably when Florence Nightingale put all the badly injured patients near to the nursing station. In 1952, it was an anesthetist who ventilated the polio patients who were suffering in polio in Denmark. In 1858, it was a cardiologist who formed a first 4-bed shock ward as a critical care. In 1970, it was physicians who formed first Society for Critical Care in USA. It's 1977, World Federation was formed, again involving nurses, doctors, physicians, anesthetists, and everyone who was interested in critical care medicine. In 21st century now, it has become a separate specialty that is caring for the patients to improve the outcomes. So it's been a heavy force that's overwhelmingly driven by patient-centered care to improve outcomes. What critical care medicine basically involves is somebody's organ function will fail, and there is a time when the organ has failed so much, you have no compensation capacity, and you will die. That's where the critical care medicine will come in. It will support the survival of the person until either the organ recovers or we put a new organ in place, like do a transplantation. And the patient recovers back to sustain life. That's what we do in critical care medicine. It is indeed started initially with the physicians with critical care interest, emergency physicians, anesthesiologists, other acute specialty physicians joining in to critical care medicine. But today we know the best outcome comes from primary training pathway to produce critical care inter-service in the world. Basically, it's a foundation specialty. That is because it helps every other specialty go forward. You cannot do major surgery without critical care support. You cannot make a major patient in dengue shock, for example, survive with critical care support. So it helps every other specialty go forward as well. More than that, to improve patient outcomes, the critical cares have now developed subspecialties like cardiac, pediatric, neuro, liver. It's only because it all improves outcomes for the patients. So basically, what is called open ICUs, which we are practicing in this country at the moment, is an outdated model. The physician caring or the anesthesiologist caring will come and go into the intensive care unit and offer opinions. And it will have multiple input that way, but there is no continuous commitment for the patient care. This is what is reflected in this graph. The brown lines are the medical officers who are staying there for 24 hours. The yellow lines across shows in a district hospital in Sri Lanka the number of hours that is spent by the in-charge consultant. So that very often can be about an hour or less than an hour for the first 24 hours. So this kind of commitment, you can imagine the training that the MO will receive and also the care the patient will receive at specialist level. Therefore, we have to go further from that because the critical care now involves not only management of respiratory failure, management of cardiac failure, neuro failure, renal failure, liver failure, gut failure, with many advanced techniques that need special expertise and special teams So you need a manager for all this who will also have some understanding about these techniques. So we need what's called close intensive care unit managed by intensivists, and that will only improve outcomes. But it is the duty of the intensivist then to invite expertise from any other specialty to come in to help them, because they will not know everything. Furthermore, in intensive care training, these intensivists will go through in their modules to each specialty that is of relevance and acquire the skills that is required for them to manage an intensive care unit. So again, you need multidisciplinary input to develop these intensivists. It's like developing a Toyota. There's no one engineer that can develop a Toyota. The Toyota is developed by many engineers who will give the parts into it. So, and ultimately we see the car. So that is something that we have to do to train our intensivists. So today in critical care medicine, the intensivist is a specialist as well as a team leader. And critical care medicine has to be an outcome-driven service. Critical care outcomes, what are they? We have to improve survival. We have to reduce the duration of stay in the intensive care unit. And we must not do harm in the process. That means the patient should not go home with the residual damage inflicted by us. And Sri Lanka is a democratic country, we know that. So therefore, professionals and politicians have to work together to achieve better outcomes for our citizens. To do that, we need to talk to each other. Politicians can make decisions only for public demand, but there is, in the healthcare, we don't have a formal patient charter. So you cannot really assess what the public thinks. It's only indirect talks that we will hear from various people. Scientific evidence is something where the politicians can make decisions, but there are little evidence generators in this country. There is a major reason for that, which is different, which I'm not going to talk about. And then threats. That's the main thing that comes in this country. You'll have comments, you'll have strikes, protests, statements, heavily influenced by parties and political groups, but not really doing that. Unfortunately, our professionals also resort to the same tactics without trying to go through a more scientific pathway to influence the politicians and help them make decisions. So the free healthcare in this country started in 1952, I believe, and the same model was implemented in England in 1948, just 4 years before. It's about patient care. But the healthcare system, so for example, in England has revised so many times to change how they deliver care. But we haven't. We have a doctor-centered care, which we started like that, and even today it's a doctor-centered care. But unfortunately, this is now influenced by commercial interest, company interest, trade union interest, limited resources because the funds being diverted to other things, political interests, as well as threats. So this model is now eroded, and it's not really working. And that is why we have these problems. The public who pay for this, the patients who take the treatments, have little say in the way this healthcare is delivered. So delayed critical care development in this country is actually one victim of this failing model. Therefore, the model will need to change. So how can we change? For example, for critical care, we need primary training for critical care doctors and nurses, junior and senior. Secondly, we need full-time commitment for people who are doing critical care medicine. And free healthcare will have to remodel to be accountable to the public and responsive to the public as well. So to do that, we need to talk about a patient-centered care, which will be in the foremost will be the safety of the patients, the quality of care, effective care, dignity for the patients, and maintain respect for the patients as well. To do that, our Honorable Minister can do something. That's you can get patients involved in this decision-making process. Patient targets monitored and outcomes-driven service can be done through legislation. And I think this message will go forward. So together we can, as professionals, improve critical medicine, and together with politicians, we can transform our healthcare to a better service. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that insightful journey through the inception and growth of critical care medicine in Sri Lanka as well as globally.